When he moved into the house, he was a really positive mindset. He was actually clicking really well, and he was willing to work hard as well. He was really nice, and he was careful because it was like new environment. But you know, because he was so careful and took so much care about everything he set up with us, he really fit in well.
The first weeks on scrims, I didn't know too much, so I did a lot of mistakes. And everything got pointed out basically, which is really important, so I know what I'm doing wrong and I can improve on it.
Yeah, he went through the process, he worked hard, he understood for himself what it means to win and what it means to lose. So I think this kind of helped him to grow if he tackles it the right way, and I hope I can facilitate that.
I'm like good mid laner now because everyone teaches me how to play. When I joined Unicorns, I was actually surprised because it's kind of like a family. Everyone, the coach, the manager, the other players, and I really enjoy staying with them, and it's awesome.
Well, we'll see if that family can come together and take game number 2. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Krakow, Poland for this third place match between H2K and the Unicorns of Love. We're going to see blue side Unicorns once more. They picked it this time around, though.
Well, as much as Exile does play some different things, I'm not sure the Ari cosplayers in the crowd are going to be
not in the meta.
I don't think there's
right
too
now.
much
Not quite
Ari.
yet.
Interesting to hear about Exile, because coming into the split, we weren't too sure what to make of Exile. I mean, Pulse and I had the pleasure of casting him way back on SK Prime in Challenger, and
years ago.
Yeah, like 3 years ago, casting him in Challenger, and honestly, he was just a player that never really left a mark in Challenger, even though SK Prime were a decent team. But coming into Unicorns, talking about what Sheepy can do with individuals, this guy has gone from week 1, where we're like, what is going on here with the
Picking
LeBlanc
Yasuo
performance, the Yasuo, into actually a fairly consistent mid laner who can stand up. Game 1's not the best example of that, but still, I'm impressed at the growth in just one split.
Yeah, consistency is the key thing, I think, with Exile, because when he joined the first games we saw him play, he was like 0-10. I was like, oh, this doesn't work on like a 0. And then he went for LeBlanc and went like 10-0 on the other hand against Origin, like back in week 1. It was crazy to see how up and down he was. When he got an Assassin, he was great. He then transitioned to play more Victor, more Azir, become more of a team fighter. And now a lot of Vladimir is being played, obviously because a lot of the other picks are being banned, like Kassadin and Ryze. The split pushing picks he does play are being taken away by H2K. And they're going to do the same, which is why it's kind of crazy to me Unicorns pick blue side again.
Yeah.
Because they're basically forced to change up their ban slightly, or their strategy, because they wanted to target Odo Amne. So they ban away Gnar and Echo. They're like, here's Shen. There you go. I think most top lanes are going to be like, sure, I'll take that. Also because Chachi is not the greatest gangplank, not mechanically, but it's not his style. He's the kind of guy who needs to win his lane, who needs to be a split pusher to really have high impact. When you play Gangplank, it's a lot more about outscaling, fairly slow, but surely, get your global ulti, and then like be very important in these team fights. It is not Chachi's style, so I don't think that is a correct choice from Unicorns of Love.
No, I don't think so, but we'll have to see if maybe they prove us wrong to start this one off. Maybe they've got something different up their sleeve. Sheepy certainly seems to be not too worried about it, not too phased after the game 1 loss.
Yeah, we could actually see them just first pick the Shen. Because giving Move the Rek'Sai and giving him the better early jungle matchup clearly did absolutely nothing. Because he fell behind like 30 CS anyway to Gragas. So first picking for Move actually has very little value for Unicorns of Love just due to how he's performing. So why don't you first pick the Shen instead, maybe for Odo Amne? And that's actually something that worked for you in the semi-final. Play around having a strong bot lane with the Shen ulti, and then you also take that away from Odo Amne himself.
Exactly, and there are more questions as we go through this because, if they have the same bans again, we're going very quickly. We are at the same bans from game 1 as we get to the third ban. Kassadin would be correct. A different ban this time, though, as Sivir gets taken away. Don't want to give H2K an easy first rotation in this draft. That's what happened in the last game when that Sivir was picked up alongside the Shen in rotation 1 for H2K. So now questions have to be made. Is the Elise still banned here, or do you ban the Vladimir to allow the good jungle matchup on both sides?
Yeah, and does Unicorns again go for that early Rek'Sai pick, even though it did absolutely nothing? Shen is a much more impactful pick for them.
Ooh,
Jhin is interesting here because Forgiven doesn't play Jhin. So often when you have these trades of AD carries, it would be like Jhin and Ashe being traded. Well, if you take away the Ashe as Unicorns, well then Forgiven doesn't play the Jhin. He does, however, play Lucian. He does play Ashe. He can pick it right here if he wants the Ashe pick now as a takeaway from Veritas. And Unicorns once again pick the Rek'Sai, even though it did nothing. in the last game. It is their first pick. Shen is open again.
And it did nothing into a matchup that Rek'Sai should do well. Elise is available for later in this draft for Jankos when he wants to pick it up. If it's not that high priority for H2K, they don't need it now.
Like right now, if you're H2K, you could go Shen Ashe and then wait for your support pick again and get another strong 2v2 lane with hard engage, and then just Shen ulti down to that bottom lane once Ashe hits level 6, gets to ulti, and then suddenly you actually have a very powerful combination where you also take away 2 picks Unicorns really want to play.
And that's exactly as you guys say, they take the Shen, they take the Ashe, it's back over to Unicorns, it's going to be rough for him.
So at this point, last draft was Tahm Kench Vlad. We may still see the Vlad come out here because they basically know it'll force the Cassiopeia on that next rotation. Unicorns will go into this, if they lock Vlad, thinking Elise Cassio is going to be the last one. We just have to figure out what that support's going to be.
Yeah, we might see like a Karma coming in as potential flex choice and then save the Vlad for later, just to try and secure a stronger bottom lane if you are Unicorns of Love after losing that lane before. Veritas has played Lucian as well. Once he hits level 6, he is very strong, but it's hard against Ashe. She's a bit of a lane bully early on. It's difficult if you don't have a last pick or late support pick to really show the full bottom lane. I'm really interested in seeing what Unicorns want to do here on red side. That is...
Whoa!
Hang on,
Whoa.
No. Everyone looks very confused.
Calm down. That is not gonna happen, I'm sure. Like, you would not blind pick Azir in this meta with other picks available in the second rotation.
Something's gone a little screwy.
I'm looking down on stage and nobody is fussing around the Unicorns right now about it. Exile is turning around, so perhaps it isn't. That would be an incredibly different...
Yeah.
Hi guys, this normally means pick and ban phase, something went wrong when you go to the casters. Yeah, Azir we don't want to see.
I would imagine that would be a Vlad if they are picking mid lane right there. Again, for the same thing. Because, I mean, the Kassadin's banned, the Ryze is banned. Looking at blind pickable, the Karma's the other one, as you said. If they're flexing it, want to try and get a little bit of...
I mean, the only question is...
Oh, it wouldn't if they have Tahm Kench.
Yeah, exactly. They already picked the support here before. But the problem, again, for Unicorns, if they go for Vlad, you know Cassiopeia is going to come in one more time for Rio. And while Exile were slightly winning that matchup in terms of farm, it was hard for him to really have much of an impact late game. We saw his build as well, the double defensive item he went for, which left him, you know, not the strongest in terms of DPS, and then everything else was physical damage. So Unicorns actually kind of ran out of damage themselves, despite having Ashe, GP, and Vladimir, which is not something you see.
I do quite like the takeaway of the Tahm Kench, though. I say takeaway, they played it in game 1. Tahm Kench later on in the game... I believe it was Tahm Kench got locked in, but obviously if we do have a champ select problem, it will reset that rotation. If it is the Tahm Kench taken away, the Tahm Kench Ashe pairing is very difficult to deal with later on in the game. Ashe, obviously, one of the drawbacks is fairly low mobility, so Tahm Kench solves that problem straight away. However, Taric is always there for H2K as well. I'm waiting to see Vander bring out that Taric because it was so good in the quarterfinal round.
I did want to ask about that because, you know, we talked a little bit last game about the 2v2 and what was necessarily better, picking for a strong lane or picking for a team fight. Well, you could kind of have both if you had the Shen anyways, but for H2K, you know, this is kind of a Vander special, even though a lot of people have been picking up this Taric. It should benefit them quite a lot in those team fights, especially if we do see the Vlad coming out again.
Yeah, problem is just picking for team fights when you're already losing in the early game doesn't really favor you that much. It's, again, right now for H2K about getting that strong 2v2 one more time because they have the Shen top to support it, and then for Unicorns to not fall into the same trap. Because people will then say, why don't you just lane stop after 5 minutes? You know, you just send that losing bot lane to top side. You can't. If you're getting pushed to your tower 24/7, you can't leave your lane. You can't go to top lane because you lose that first tower almost instantly. So it's very hard to get out of these losing matchups. And that is one of the big reasons why pick and ban phase is so important in the current meta, because these winning early lanes can give you such a huge, you know, push forward and give you a big advantage outside of their, or just from the laning phase alone.
You know who generally doesn't do that in this meta, and that's why we were surprised to see him? The Azir. I've been given an update. We will be restarting picks and bans, and everything will remain the same until the Azir rotation. So that was an incorrect pickup. There were some issues with champions automatically locking in, so we will be redoing the draft. Up until that point, everything will remain the same, bans and picks. So that'll be the Rek'Sai, the Ashe, and the Shen are confirmed picks.
Yeah, so we'll be able to pick that one right back up from where it started as soon as we get into the picks and bans. They're still filling up the lobby, so we'll get back on that one pretty quickly.
And then also when we go into pick and ban phase, there will always be someone who messes up the ban and like, all right, remake again.
Yep.
And then here we are 5 minutes later.
Had that one before.
Yeah.
We've had it a few times already. Obviously, when something does go wrong in the pick and ban phase, we don't want to punish the team and be like, yeah, sucked for you. You're playing Azir now. You know, that's how it is.
Yeah, on a big stage.
Yeah.
All right, I guess
Yeah,
I'll lock that
no,
one in.
it doesn't really work.
Not a matchup we have seen in a while, for sure.
But still, like, a lot of questions around Unicorns and pick and blue side. Dynamic side selection, guys. So after every single game, you know, the other team gets to pick. So H2K were higher seed. They pick game 1. Unicorns pick game 2. Then H2K game 3. And then 4 for Unicorns and 5 for H2K again. You would think, after the team just showed a good strategy against your blue side, that you would then swap it around. Because again, this Rek'Sai first pick, while it looks good on paper, it really did absolutely nothing. So, yeah. It's weird.
And the Rek'Sai focus first. I mean, there were so many junglers left up. Yes, like we've highlighted move as a big weakness.
I mean, Rek'Sai is the best jungler. Rek'Sai is the best jungler.
But when you're not able to win a winning matchup with it, is it still worth the first pick?
That's the big question.
Well, the thing is, it's the kind of jungler that has some sense of forgiving to it as well. You lose the matchup. It was bad. Like, there is no way around that. But as for junglers that aren't like, you know, you roll a dice, Rek'Sai is fairly safe.
Definitely, yeah, it's safe. It's more you're investing your first pick for this one, and you know you're going to give away 2 strong picks to the red side team and a potential last pick later for something like the support to get that strong 2v2 matchup. It's a lot invested into a first pick, where normally when teams go blue side, you know, it's because either they want to target ban with their bans, which is actually what Unicorns are doing, trying to hit Odo Amna quite a bit up in the top lane, and then also if that first pick, you know, if you're H2K, you get Rek'Sai for Yankers. Okay, value right there. You know, this guy can carry the early game on this champion. Move is not doing the same, and that's where the blue side first pick suddenly is not the great. Same if you draft, you know, in any leagues, you know, that first pick, it got to count.
Maybe it's all about that entrance to Baron everyone's talking about with blue side.
Yeah,
that's why you want to always on blue side for that division.
All right, got some good news.
Better win rate.
We're back in, guys. Same bans as before. We will have it all the same up until the Unicorn's second rotation.
Oh, Pat!
Yeah!
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right,
so
back to normal.
We are more anticipating the Vlad along with the Tahm Kench from game 1 as well. That is the most likely setup here.
Tahm Kench, obviously a traditional counter, something like an Ashe ulti, as engaged later on, but it once again sets up H2K to last pick that support if they want to get that strong 2v2 matchup with the Karma. Again, if they want Karma Ashe with the Shin backing them up, it's a super powerful combination. And then it's all about just getting Cassiopeia mid for Ryu, and I think Yankers is more than fine taking Gragas again.
Oh yeah, he has the Gragas, also has access to Elise. If he wants the team play, the Gragas is obviously going to give him the engage potential alongside the Ashe. You got the Chub Marine that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Elise a little less cohesive with the direction that H2K are going, but still Jankos, anytime he gets the opportunity to play Elise and get that early game presence, get himself in the mix, is always there.
Okay, now.
So that was one of the picks we talked about, the Lucian.
There's the Lucian.
For Veritas, when you try and go all in for that laning phase, specifically, Lucian is one of these carries who does get outskilled by most of the other AD carries in the meta, like Ashe, like Sivir. Obviously very strong, especially on a 2-item spike, and after level 6, he gets a lot of pressure in his lane. But if you're H2K, again, you have seen their jungler, you've seen the mid laner, Cassiopeia Gragas would be a perfectly fine rotation, and then once again, save that support pick for Vander. Don't change too much, because you actually did more than fine in the last game. The Sivir ulti wasn't even that impactful. It was against a gangplank first of all, and a lot of them were actually whiffed because H2K didn't have a whole lot of coordination in their fights.
I believe this again is a slight issue that we're having with champ select by the
But it's not buffed yet.
I was getting hyped there. We got some Ryu, Ezreal mid lane.
Top lane Vi, it'll be great. So we are likely to be backing away out of picks and bans from this one.
All right.
Probably has not gone crazy.
Third time is the charm.
Hopefully.
Yeah, unless probably this is now the secret map.
We gotta show the troll picks,
Yeah,
and we gotta go out, we gotta go back in, show the real picks. And it's Unicorn's turn as well to do it.
Everybody gets one. This is what we're calling dynamic champion select. We've got dynamic side selection. We know we're just going to start locking champions for players and go. Everything's great.
Yeah, I wonder what happens. Like, it's not a player like mistyping Vi, and he's like, oh, I locked that in. You know, that doesn't happen.
That's a weird one.
Clearly they have some issues on stage right now, but We've seen a few more picks. We saw obviously the Lucian. We saw the Vladimir. We talked about Vladimir. You talked about it being like the safe choice. Yep. Cassiopeia most likely for Rio going to be the answer again.
Yeah, I use safe in like quotes.
Yeah.
Like, should be, but
it is hard to blind pick mid. Honestly, there is a lot of things that can counter like the meta picks right now, but none of them are like super hard counters where it's like, oh, you're going to lose by 40 CS and you can't win the game.
Yeah. We also saw the Gnar hover too, and I think that's something that they could bring out here on the side of Unicorns.
I think it is, and it gives Chachi a little bit more of that laning presence that we have grown to know from Chachi time and time again.
Laning presence and being able to split push more effective than a GP against a Shen, where it's about outscaling for big fights and match the global. No, we need something where Chachi can get a few ganks remove early, get an advantage, and then become that main split pusher for Unicorns of Love. And that's where Gnar will make a lot of sense. But again, they're giving some very powerful picks over. And by hovering it, you kind of hinted towards. I don't think it's a surprise for Unicorns. Because suddenly Unicorns didn't ban it. They banned the Civ instead and left that Gnar open, knowing Odoamne would take the Shen in first rotation most likely.
It's also been a much more successful champion for Chachi this split. In the regular split, he had 5 games on it. He didn't lose one of them. And yeah, it kind of fits his style a bit better than the GP, that we just saw it not really looking too comfortable in his hands.
It's interesting though, because we haven't actually seen Odoamne play much of the Shen Gnar matchup, because a lot of times in the playoffs so far, it's been banned against H2K. They banned it in one game, so it's not actually a matchup we've seen too much. However, it's playing against Gnar is something Odoamne did in every single game, pretty much, just time and time again, whether it was a GP, whether it was the Echo. So the fact that he's got his Shen locked in already may leave him a little sour taste, but I still think he'll be fine with the match.
That's always been the thing for Odoamne. He's always been known as like the team player, which is why you wouldn't praise him as much if you think back to last year's like Kapashard, who was his nemesis, who was like the hard carry, split pusher, Fiora every game, and then Odoamne, the team player. And people would make fun of him and say, he just plays Maokai and Rammus and so on, just point and click CC. But that's obviously not true, because Odoamne is the guy who can play multiple different styles. We've seen split push, we've seen, the big tanks, we've seen more of these defensive picks, like, again, a Shen. So he has multiple things he can play, and he's okay taking some of these matchups where he might not be favored to, like, stomp the lane because he doesn't have to.
You know what I really like about Odoamne in this? And this is one of the things that we criticize for Odoamne in the middle of the split that Shen leaps and bounds helps him with. We were always talking about how H2K, they look a little less strong when it's not Odoamne that's TPing first. When he's not the first one into the fight, when it's not H2K kicking things off, when they're trying to react, they always look a little bit behind the curve, even more so than you would expect. Whereas the Shen, obviously, you're the one trying to make the plays, you're the one with a global presence, and it worked well in game 1. There was a little miscommunication with Odoamne and Jankos at times, but
I still picked up the win.
Certainly seemed to fix some of those issues.
Yeah, and I think you really hit the nail on the head with the fact that H2K are always a team that are way more comfortable in the driver's seat. Playing from behind, this is how they've lost a lot of games and not shined in fights, is when they kind of get caught off guard. They reacted well a lot of the times to the Unicorns, but I think at a certain point, the Unicorns are going to go in on a 50-50, so you can kind of make that prediction ahead of time and say, you know what, we're going to fight now because we know they're coming for us.
Yeah, and that's part of the adaptation in these BO5s and why a team like Unicorns have struggled in the past as well. Like in a best of 1, like we used to have in the LCS, these crazy kind of
good old days
or play styles, but like these kind of 50-50 moves that a team would make could definitely work, and you could pick up that one victory. But once you get into BO5s, it's like you got to do this now a minimum of 3 games in a row, and that's really difficult to do to win that series. And that's where other teams can then kind of adapt on the fly after game 1, where you get used to it. H2K got caught a few times where they were like engaging from multiple angles with like a Cassiopeia, which didn't make any sense. They got punished. Now they learned. They still managed to win the game, so they're in a very good spot.
Didn't lose too much for it. And that's the thing. H2K have historically always had a bit of an edge on Unicorns. They were 12-4, now 12-5, or 13-4 all time against them. And look at that, same picks and bans so far. Take 3 on this pick ban phase here in game 2. It's finally happening.
So let's get another rotation in before we have to come back out of it. It won't be the Ezreal.
Don't put that out there, Stress.
It won't be Ezreal Fi. We were talking about it, if you haven't heard this the first 3 times, Cassiopeia likely to be the lock-in for H2K. The question of the jungle matchup is just what Jankos feels like he wants to play, and then we're on to the Unicorns of Love. We've talked about the Gnar, we've talked about other options that they have. That support is obviously going to be pivotal for that bottom lane.
Analyzed the hell out of this pick ban phase.
May see Hilly go for the Taric. We haven't seen too much out of it.
It's just a problem, again, if you don't see the support from Vander, if you are Unicorns a lot, almost no matter what you pick, you might lose out on the laning phase. Again, that's where Karma comes in. It's the like guaranteed good laning phase support pick, but then doesn't do a whole lot outside of lane as a support.
I wondered to that point whether we'll see Hylissang go for the Bard. Now, Bard isn't played a whole lot on this meta, but it has been banned away from Hylissang a lot. There's the support.
Okay, so basically H2K don't want to have Unicorns picking that Tahm Kench against the Ashe themselves, so they do remove it by now taking the Tahm Kench as well. Like, Tahm Kench is one of the safest supports you can pick. He can do well in almost every single laning phase, and when you have Ashe next to him, who is a strong laner herself, like, it's a fine 2v2 combination if you are H2K. We also have some safety for the Ashe in case the enemy team runs what European players like to call the bulldozer comp. Like, these mid laners like Vlad with Ghost who can just dive the back line against low mobility AD carries. Tahm Kench is here to save the day.
And I wonder now whether we'll see just full-on engage in team fighting out of H2K. Cassiopeia is the obvious option. We're coming back.
Okay!
It's the same.
Well, yeah, but still, this is, I actually could see Unicorn.
The problem is these don't actually
no.
be Unicorns. The Alawi, but I don't think we're keeping the Alawi in the Kale.
Sorry,
now,
boys.
I got excited.
I don't know, you could play Alawi into Shen, I guess.
I hope some people just tune in, see the picks, go like, whoa! Nice. Like,
But still,
about it.
Unicorns, that would be something that we would see from them.
the Alawi, yes. Kale support,
Kale's
probably
less,
not.
less,
Probably
less
not.
so.
Again, we mentioned...
So 3 times is not the charm, unfortunately.
I quite like the takeaway with the Tahm Kench.
Yep.
Even though it does show the full bot lane, and while you have last pick for mid, Cassiopeia is still a choice. Like, it's just stealing away Tahm Kench from Hylissang and not allowing him to play it.
There are a couple other choices for that last pick. If we see the Malzahar come out of Ryu, other options, if they want to just go, we don't care about the laning phase, but we want side lane and team fight, Lissandra is also an option for that bulldozer. We know Ryu's played a whole bunch of Lissandra as well earlier on in the year. So there are still flexible options for H2K. None of them, apart from the Cassiopeia, are really going to crush, I don't feel.
Right, and now they drafted a Gragas as well. Like, it is very focused around team fighting, what they've been building, a bit like in the last game. So we would expect a team fighting mage to come in and not a 1-3-1 comp specifically. Also with Chachi having that counter pick for Shen, once he starts losing his laning phase, or after laning phase, once he starts losing the pressure in the 1v1, it's hard to play 1-3-1 comps against it when your top lane is always under pressure. So most likely we're going to get the team fighting mage and not the big 1-3-1 champion.
Yeah, I was going to say, saying that, knowing Ryu, he'll just lock Twisted Fate and we'll go for the EDG.
There we go.
We'll just be like, just snowball bot and Forgiven will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, that could work for sure. But this kind of presents a unique situation. When you have so much time to actually think, because we do get remade with the same picks and bans, you have a lot more time than you usually do to think about your composition. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing when it comes down to it? Do you have the tendency to overthink that? I
don't think it ever hurts to have more time to think about your pick and ban phase. The question is, does the other team benefit more than you? Like, if you've already decided, all your 5 picks all the way down, and they're now trying to figure out what kind of comp you're drafting, they do benefit from it, sure, but it's the same for both teams.
I don't know. H2K had 2 hours the other week, so
yeah, that's true.
They're probably like, get me into game as fast as.
Actually, they had 2 days after. They're like, all right, what do we do in this pick and ban phase?
They're well trained for this.
They're in this. They know how to handle for sure. So maybe the Unicorns are the ones in trouble.
Right now, after losing game 1, then the pause or the slow pick and ban phase tilt, man, instant tilt.
It can happen.
This is where we're actually going to get one of those solo, like, give me Alawi and Kale, like the next.
It will, and then we'll drop out of the lobby erroneously.
Let's think about it here though. If you do play Alawi in this meta, where so much is about like these standard lanes, as long as you're bot lane doesn't get crushed, so the enemy team can just swap on you after 5 minutes, you can actually play that 1v1 lane for quite some time. I don't think it's a good pick. It's way too risky. If you get shut down early, you are completely useless until that big team fight where you get 5 tentacles smacking on everyone and you win the game. But that is like so high risk, high reward, even too high risk for Unicorns.
Exactly, that's one of those things with those high risk lane focus where I'm like, somebody's gonna play Renekton into like
hey, he's solid.
That's what I'm saying. Is like somebody's just gonna go, oh, we're in standard lanes, we only need to win lane and then win the game from it and snowball. Let's just pick these ridiculous champions that don't care past 10 minutes. But as long as I get a lead.
I mean, yeah, if someone does crazy enough draft,
we've seen Darius coverage, by the way.
No Darius.
Yeah, that's too crazy.
But like, if someone is crazy enough to go like Fiora blind pick, then suddenly Renekton can appear and just like crush the lane and dive the enemy top laner. This pick and ban phase over with Unicorns. We talk so much about Chachi becoming a split pusher. Gnar becomes the obvious choice for him in that lane. Don't think like Fiora is a pick he's gonna pull out now. So Gnar again becomes the safe choice. and then support. Like really the question for Hylissang is like, does he want to build towards winning that laning phase even more? Something like a Trundle can also be an option if they want against some of these tanks. We're going to have to see.
Yeah, we will have to see. So I've just been told while we're still investigating the issue, we're going to send it over to the analyst desk to break down what's happened so far.
Thank you so much. Yes, always the bearer of bad news if you see us before Champion Select is over. They are investigating what the issue is with Champion Select because champions are getting inadvertently locked in, and those are not the champions that the players had selected themselves. Hence, Divide, the Ezreal, the...
Which plays players off?
Plays off?
Plays off, yeah.
Plays off?
What it's called these days.
All right. As a coach, it must be a little bit annoying, obviously, that you have this plan in your head. You show some of your cards, and then you have to take them back and maybe think of a new plan.
No, like from my perspective, what I do in terms of picking bans is I always plan every possible scenario before I go on stage. So in my eyes,
every possible scenario.
Like, of course, you know, if there's a random Ilaoi Kale, maybe I didn't plan for that. But there are some scenarios where things just don't matter, right? Where some picks that are so useless that they don't matter. So in my eyes, I think it shouldn't change anything at all. But you know, looking at this draft, I think maybe UOL has some regrets.
Well, we've seen some things, of course, the Rek'Sai again in the first lock-in, the Shen given over, Gragas, Ashe, Tahm Kench. We, of course, don't know if we're going to go for a full remake or not, but you do see some trends for UOL. Again, that jungler Rek'Sai is what they value the highest.
I mean, in the current meta, you have to play Rek'Sai. Like, I've talked to multiple pro players, and they say if the enemy team has Rek'Sai, it's over. More importantly, because Rek'Sai has a clear path where you can hand off blue buff level 4 to the mid laner, and we know European mid laners aren't always the most mentally stable, so when an enemy mid laner returns with blue buff early game, you know, that may just have some repercussions.
Yeah, for sure. Like with the mid laners that are being played right now, Cassiopeia with blue buff, holy moly. Malzahar with blue buff, oh my god, FF20. You know, these are things that are very, very, you know, mentally damaging in-game, you know. But I think looking at the draft, I think this is the first time I've ever seen, you know, a team pick blue side again, and then in my eyes, I think it's a poor adaptation. I think it looks worse than the previous pick and ban because, you know, very straightforward, Ashe first rotation on the other side, and all of a sudden you have Ashe in Delusion. This is not a match that you want to play ever.
I mean, it's exactly what happened from H2K versus you guys. You guys, the red side masters, as it turned out, but H2K always going for that blue side when they could, and you guys going for red.
Yeah. Like I think in general, from my perspective, it was strange. I think in this particular matchup, I think while GP Shen works, I think this is a matchup that is very, very viable. I don't think it applies in this particular matchup because these are early game teams.
And if we look at pick and bans in general, we don't have insight in kind of the equity that a player or a coach has in deciding what gets locked in. What's it like for Splice these days, especially, or maybe does it change throughout the season or in playoffs, or is it always the same recipe? How much equity does Yamato have, and how much input do the players have?
I think it's very, very hard for me to kind of give you like a concrete answer, but the way I like to see it is kind of a pot, and everyone's just throwing their ingredients into it, and I kind of mix it all together and kind of make something based off everyone's ideas. But there are times where I have to make a judgment call, and the players, I ask them to just trust me, and sometimes I have this gut feeling to trust my players because of how they say things to me. So it's very hard to say a concrete answer, but I would say it's a stew.
Well, talking to Sheepy last year, at least, I know they had democratic shot calling in-game at least, and maybe in the picks and bans as well.
It's just, I feel I just have this image of like all in favor, hi, you know.
Are we going to do... Oh, it's already down. Well, that.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, so let's look at this game then specifically. Unicorns of Love, you guys had them all pegged as the winner, so they're going to have to win this next game as a start. Who would you put your marbles on if you were the coach, and who would you give all the resources to carry?
Did you ask Crep or me?
I mean, you're the coach, bro.
I was looking at him, but then he looked away.
Okay. Well, I think in this case, I think Vichisachi has shown to deliver. I think it's kind of hard in a pick and ban phase to say, oh my goodness, you're the one that's going to win the game today. I've never done that personally. I think it's very specific to who you play against. In this case, Exile, you know, has been a shining light, but all of a sudden these bans are coming in against them. You can't expect them to perform to an equal level. So I think it really depends on who you play against.
Chachi's Gangplank came on?
Yeah, I mean, Chachi was lackluster because he missed like at least 3 barrel combos on screen. But if you draft Illusion, you kind of, for me, have to snowball that lane almost. I'm a big fan of the cheesy level 3 gank from Rek'Sai onto Tahm Kench because a lot of them don't skill Grey Health until level 3, but that is like the ultimate cheese. If it works, you win the lane. If it loses, if you fail, like the enemy jungler will claim whatever's left of your jungle. But in Unicorn's case, where the jungler falls behind anyways, you know, at least do it with a purpose.
And it's like in this case, you know, with the Rek'Sai on blue side, it's very, very easy to gank bot lane. But then you run into this problem where you face a Tahm Kench and an Ashe. It's very, very hard to gank this lane. And
So
there
you
are
have
very
to
few
take the Tom Kencher level 2, or otherwise never visit that lane again.
For
Well,
sure.
Picks and bans, we don't know, might of course start from the beginning once again, so we will see what happens. In all, H2K, the first win on the board, we said already, the crowd, you were mentioning it, how big of an impact it can be, and they have been pretty loud as well whenever the ball got rolling for H2K.
It's those little things, but it's so reassuring that if you make a play and you know the crowd's behind you and they cheer, especially nowadays, like people play on manageable delay. Back in the day, there was like 3 minutes. So if you made a play at like Gamescom, for example, 3 minutes later they were cheering. But nowadays, like it's almost instantaneous, and it is a major boost, especially for like Vander or Jankos. Like when Jankos got first blood, you can guarantee that damn hell that felt great that the crowd was behind him. So hopefully for H2K they can carry on that momentum because they have been playing well enough to continue on what they're doing so far.
Yeah, and if they don't manage to make it, or if they do manage to make it, rather than tomorrow, they'll be cheering harder, or you'll be cheering harder for Splice, because if H2K win here and win the third place match, that means that you can't go to World Talent Championship points. So you're going to have to win tomorrow, Yamato.
Well, the thing is, the result of the day is not going to impact at all how we play tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are going to go in it to win it because we want to be #1 in EU.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we're looking at right now.
Okay, is that the way you've also worked towards it? No numbers game, no nothing, just Splice, the project that is Splice, going from Challenger, wanting to be the best here in Europe?
Well, we have to take everything step by step. You can look ahead. You can look so far ahead. Yeah, season 16, I'm going to do this. It's very easy to set like long-term goals. But in my eyes, I've always told the players, short-term, what's in front of us is what is important. And right now, G2 is in front of us, and we're going to tackle them hard.
And then to touch on something like preparation for playoffs, because it's a little bit adverse, because a lot of people that don't follow esports very closely don't realize it, but it feels to me incredibly hard to prepare for playoffs, because the teams that you can scrim go down in numbers a lot. The teams that you can scrim that are good enough to actually teach you something are almost non-existent, because you can barely scrim your direct opponent. So what, for example, has Splice's preparation been?
Well, in our case, I think the regional qualifier is definitely a massive blessing. Whenever, since the addition of the regional qualifier, the teams that kind of fall out of playoffs, they stick around. They want to scrim, they want to play the regional qualifier. Of course, Giants and Fnatic have been scrimming. So I think in this case, in the last 2 seasons, it's been a lot easier.
But do you teach more than you'd learn when you scrim teams like Fnatic, who were in massive disarray, Giants, who got quite easily swept away in the first round? Like, how much does Spice as a team actually take from these teams and potentially run the risk of teaching them too much, making them stronger for the regional playoffs?
Like in this case, looking at 6.15 as a whole, I felt like we were the ones that truly needed the practice, because 6.15 was a hard patch for us, and we looked at the teams that would potentially be the best at this particular patch. And I think in our case, we practiced a lot against H2K, and eventually we had to play them, so we couldn't practice them. But it's been back and forth, and we've pretty much scrimmed anyone possible. It wasn't anything specific. We just made sure we had scrims, we focused on our own thing, and it wasn't really too much more emphasis put into that.
Yeah, as we are emphasizing a bit on Splice and their growth, that is because we do have a bug in Champ Select in that second game. Between H2K and UOL, as you can see, they're testing some things out right now, so we hope to get a resolution for you soon and get into Game 2. We were mentioning the Gauntlet a lot, which is the regional qualifier, but we dubbed it the Gauntlet because that's what we always tend to say. I do believe we can get a bracket up in just a second, but that's going to be absolutely stacked. Let's make a hypothetical scenario that H2K, as it is going now, wins and G2 wins tomorrow. Then we have Splice, the Giants, the Unicorns of Love, and Fnatic in that Gauntlet, but that is a fantastic tournament. Too bad that all 3 teams of those will feel really sad.
Yeah, Spice is going to stomp that, though. I believe. Yeah, I don't think anybody... It's really hard for me to see Fnatic make the growth, because it feels like they're in shambles. Giants also kind of regressed a little bit, 6-15. Maybe the Unicorns can bounce back, but from losing a third-place match to then having to face off a Spice that is clearly top 2, unless G2 tomorrow kind of smashes Splice into pieces, but I don't really expect that. That would be the only caveat to that.
I think the only kind of contender is the team that faces UOL in the final of the Gauntlet. I think that will be the deciding factor of the Gauntlet, because looking at Giants, I think in best of 5 scenarios, looking at their history in best of 5s has always been very, very weak. I remember playing them in the regional qualifier. I remember seeing them play against H2K as well in the past, and always in best of 5s they've struggled to adapt.
They have improved though, pick and ban significantly, mostly because Sunstar allegedly has been a major voice on that team. Maybe that leads to more best of 5 adaptation, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, as an update, they are running some tests and they seem to be in a final test. And if that works, we're getting into picks and bans. We did see that some players are leaving the stage maybe to grab a bite to eat or go to the bathroom. So
bathroom breaks, super
bathroom
necessary.
Breaks, important. Like, imagine that you have to get into that game and you really have to go. That should be, that would be
unlucky.
Unlucky. But to go to more interesting topics, I guess, about the Gauntlet, this was the hypothetical scenario 1. Hypothetical scenario 2 is that H2K loses here today. The Unicorns of Love.
Probably made it back in. He's like, put me in, coach. Okay, coach.
I'm going. There you go. Pose flag, chilling. Casual. Is that tied too long?
Depends. You need to see if he's standing.
Yeah.
Probably usually knows what he's
It's
doing.
hard to see with his posture. You know, he's relaxing.
He's the gamer posture.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
maximum slouch. That's the closest probably he gets to playing for Worlds. I did
you on the analyst.
I did the play test too. Every time when nobody's in the crowd, I just go sit down in one of those chairs and like, still got it. And then I realize I don't.
Yeah, the players are getting back. They were given a brief break because they had a delay. So hypothetical scenario 2 is H2K doesn't win here today, which is what you guys had predicted. The Unicorns of Love win.
Yep.
That means they are the boss, so the final boss in the Gauntlet. And let's say Splice wins tomorrow, then G2 goes on points, and then we have a Gauntlet of UOL, H2K, Giants, and Fnatic. Do you then give it to H2K?
Ooh, I think if H2K managed to lose against UOL, I don't think they will.
It's over.
I think
It's over.
Yeah.
This team, if they lose the best of 5 against Unicorns, they need to wait a week and then play it again. And like, who do you scrim at that point? Because I imagine both Spice and G2 are going to take a small breather to prepare for. I don't know if you guys are planning on a boot camp. Don't need to reveal that. I've heard whispers that G2 might prepare a boot camp.
They announced it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, they announced. I was just afraid to spoil it. But yeah, great. So they're going boot camps. The only teams you can scrim is teams that you have to play for your race to Worlds then, which means you lose the best of 5 against Unicorns and you likely don't scrim anybody else to improve and you have to face them again. That's a really doomsday
then
scenario.
Unicorns of Love go to Worlds.
Then Unicorns go to Worlds.
Like one interesting fact as well is like in the past, I remember when I was in Rockat with Vander and Jankos, we lost against UOL in like this really, really long best of 5. It was really, really hard.
Beautiful game.
Really, really painful.
A lot of macro.
Like the last game was, you know, it was a catastrophe the way we lost it. And I feel like, you know, I remember I have memories of how the atmosphere changed within the best of 5 as we progressed. You know, we played kind of worse and worse and worse as we progressed. And it was very, very similar. And I can imagine something similar might happen in this case.
This guy, though, if Forgiven makes it to Worlds, I will shave my head. We got you on tape. We are going to remember if it happens. A lot of bets. If you would say something absolutely ludicrous, a projection about or the playoffs or the European teams at Worlds, what would it be?
I don't know. I make calculated predictions.
Ah,
I mean, the most ludicrous thing I've said probably is that Unicorns of Love would win 3-1 so far.
today. Oh, you're already taking it back? We're
Yeah.
one game in.
No, I still have the faith, you know.
C9 will go 0-6 in groups, you know,
Yeah.
the classic. Never doing that again, by the way.
Yeah, get blamed for that one. No, one thing I do want to touch on is like how, I don't know, their manager is like walking around in like a pink, beautiful like unicorn suit, and that has to be great when you're winning. But if you have to go backstage to do pick and bans for the next series, and there's like a guy dressed like a unicorn, just like, yeah, I think we should pick Ash there. I'm like, no, just that would
That's
tilt
you.
me.
I'm sure they know good and well how to deal with all the unicorns everywhere. So looking back at this game then, and then Sheepy as a coach, maybe, I don't know how much insight you guys have, but he has had a lot of different, as this is a fire alarm, I do think, or I don't know actually. Nope. Oh.
It's not a remix.
No, it isn't. I'm going to wait for production to tell me what exactly is going on. I'm sorry for the panic. It's probably not a fire alarm. Just someone was saying something. Could use a translator right
Probably we need to move your car. You're parked in front of the entrance.
It's a car alarm. We're totally fine. Sorry.
Was it? I don't know. I'm just joking.
I'm
Chuck's
being
getting
fed,
notes.
yeah, I'm getting fed misinformation here at this point. Oh, what is going on there? Oh, it was, dude, get out of that chair. We need to get back in the game. That's what the alarm is for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably an alarm.
Yeah. Got some laughs. Great. Fantastic. This game, though, I just heard that if they get back into the game, it's the picks and bans as they were before we dropped out for the last time. So Rek'Sai, Lucian, Vladimir, Shen, Ash, Gragas, no, yes, Tom Kench.
And we're almost ready here. H2K checking their shoes, because these days, these guys all have matching shoes, which is pretty dank.
I'm going to cut you off, and thank God our tests are completed, so we'll head back to the casters and give it another go.
That's not the cast.
Thank you very much, Shocks. We are about ready to go. All the testing completed. We had to make sure everything was working.
And now we
Make sure
get a Lowy
gravity
kill
still
anyway or
functioning as
something.
normal.
We're like, oh.
Yeah.
That'd be so fun.
Then we get a
Well,
Lowy
it wasn't
kill.
a mistake.
Yeah,
you know?
Unicorns are like, just kidding.
Well,
You know,
wanted to pick this.
they always keep telling me, like, whenever you ask, like, anyone on Unicorns, the manager or the owner, Sheepy's dad, you know, what are you going to pick today? Heimerdinger. Without any hesitation.
Every
One
time.
day it's going to happen. One day.
Oh, dear. He's not actually wearing a unicorn costume. I saw him earlier. He's wearing like some kind of like Tyler Breeze outfit where he's wearing like model shoes,
see,
like leggings.
here's what it is.
Like a
He's
star.
got to manage the team now, but he's going to a rave afterwards. He's just doubling up on fashion.
Oh dear. Well, as you can see, players are getting back on stage. The alarm sounded. That was the.
That was
The Brawley
that
alarm.
was new.
That was new.
Like, even for us,
Hasn't
that
happened
was
before.
new.
Hey, there he
Like,
is, by the way.
There is the man.
Yeah, but get a shot of the legs as well.
That is a
His
unicorn
shoes.
hat.
It's the
a
shoes
staff.
alongside it that it is the one that really, like, if you're still wearing them from earlier. Look at this.
Ah, yes.
Tyler Breeze right there, seasonal residence in Berlin for Remain in the Unicorns of Love. But we'll see if it can give them the motivation to get
I
himself.
feel bad about our
through this.
outfits now.
I know.
Yeah, I
mean,
feel underdressed,
James,
to be honest.
I tried to put some flowers on. I know the tie looks weird, but I'm nothing. Yeah, even a flower up here.
Good one.
I heard there's some
different
mixed
fashion
reviews
sense.
of the outfit.
Mixed
I heard.
reviews?
Really?
Like it and ew, flowers.
There's only one person that really matters for you, though, Deficio. Keep in mind, whoever's your.
It is you, James.
You're not
your
the one
opinion.
person that matters for my outfit. I'm sorry,
Well,
Deficio, but you know,
There
it's
it
all
is.
good.
There it is.
we-
That's why I'm with Trevor. Not
That's
this
why
guy.
you're with Trevor. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're
It's getting
getting
weird
ready.
now. We have the unicorn
It's
on
been
stage.
weird. Let's be real, okay? Just to clarify, just to get back into the realm where things make a little bit more sense, it is the same picks and bans. We have not changed anything, and it just because the issue we have been seeing is, of course, the players, unfortunately, not having a choice in the champions they lock in. Apparently, that was the bug.
Yeah, definitely annoying as a player if you can't choose your own champion and you get random stuff.
It's Nemesis draft, but the computer chooses.
Definitely. So, recap. Rek'Sai first pick.
Yep.
And then we had on the other side first
Shen and
rotation
Ashe.
from, obviously, H2K was Shen and Ashe. And then it went back to Unicorns with Lucian and Vladimir, back to H2K, and it was Tahm Kench and Gragas as the picks. So we still have the last pick for H2K and the last rotation for Unicorns of Love. Hopefully it works now. Next time we go back, I'm being told just a few seconds and we will be back into the champ select.
Just a few.
And
Same
we'll
band.
see
Few
the exact same
points.
band
Yeah.
and same picks all the way up
Yep.
to it. Really, a lot of suspense building to see what those last ones are going to be, though. We had a lot of speculation back and forth. Do we see that Gnar out of Unicorns? I think that's going to be the case.
I mean, that's what we expect, obviously, from Unicorns. We talked about it so much. Getting Chachi on that split pusher up in the top lane and play around him. Like, he's been one of your best players together with Exile, but it's hard if Exile gets Vladimir to kind of go like, all right, let's get Exile fed. He was solo carry. Like, it's much easier to take full control as a Gnar up in the top lane, at least from the start. Get your Vladimir to 2 or 3 items, and he can take over, obviously, and start carrying the fights. But before you hit that point, well, you need someone else to do well.
Yeah.
Didn't happen in the last game. The man on the screen just before was Move, and that was the guy we criticized a lot because he was really struggling and had very poor pathing as well.
And he gets the first pick again in this game, so we'll have to see if that ends up being worth it for Unicorns. On the other side, Ryu still has the option.
Clap means we're in.
He can take the snake. We'll see if he does it. We're going to be going in to picks and bans. 4th time. I'm still counting them down. That's right. And we have the same band so far. What do you know?
Okay, so we know it's going to be Rek'Sai, Ashe, Shen are the first 3, followed by
Rapid fire. Here we go.
Lucian, Vlad, Gragas, Tahm Kench, and from there, that is where we will progress.
And we talked about the Tahm Kench takeaway
Yep.
from Unicorns. Now that you already have the Ashe. I really like H2K's draft so far. I know the analyst was talking about it. One pick we did mention, you guys might have forgotten, was Trundle
Yep.
as a potential pick.
And it's locked.
It is good against Tahm Kench, and it's good against like both Shen and Gragas to remove some of these tanking stats from one of them. And then all we also got to mention probably 500 times before we got back into this game.
498, actually.
Because, guys, Chachi
counting.
is a split pushing guy, and he wants to be on a split push.
So we also put out 3 options for mid lane here. The Cassiopeia if they want the exact same matchup. They could go the Lissandra if you want pure team fight and that engage potential with the side lane control. The other one was the Oddball if you want to go full EDG, the Twisted Fate. I don't think it's quite the pick that we're going to see here, but you never know with Ryu.
Does that look
Sometimes
like
he
a man
has,
who takes chances?
I mean, he has played Twisted Fate.
Yeah, he
before,
has. But he's done well
very
on it.
successfully.
Definitely, but again, Cassiopeia is the expected one because of Vladimir being picked, and you look at Unicorns who will once again opt into these big team fights where Cassiopeia can shine against champions.
There it is.
Like Vlad, who's running at your back line. You try and ulti here. Obviously, the ulti can also be used as a zoning tool. You don't necessarily have to hit it to land it. It's more about just DPS studio.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys, we did it. We finished the pick and ban phase. We got the lineups all locked in.
Yes.
Successful.
Unless Cassiopeia was a troll pick.
Don't say that.
Well,
we got it, boys. We got it.
And what we've got for the Unicorns is a little bit of reliance perhaps on Veritas from the laning phase to try and snowball, but you're against the Tahm Kench, very difficult to do that. A lot of protection against the Ashe.
And you're against Forgiven, by the way.
I don't even like Lucian against Ashe, especially pre-level 6 for Lucian. I think it's very hard for him to actually win this laning phase, and he gets outscaled big time. So you have this problem if you're Unicorns of Love, that you rely a lot on winning both side lanes. The Gnar against the Shen, you want to get Gnar ahead, get him to Frozen Mallet, Black Cleaver, and he becomes that big bully against the Shen, but it takes quite some time to get there. And before you do that, you have to deal with a ton of hard engage, good lanes overall from H2K, and we saw how they played aggressive with the Shen ulti against that enemy 2v2 lane. Well, exactly the same can happen again once you hit level 6 on Ashe. And that's a way to fall behind if you're the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah.
Peel back the
you
curtain.
You don't want a way to fall behind. You want a way to get yourself ahead, and they're going to have to figure this one out. It's difficult. It's difficult, especially after what happened in the previous game. H2K have some very similar matches for themselves in the mid, especially. It's going to be different up top. Want to see what can come out from Chachi.
Well, we'll see what comes out from Chachi other than some boomerangs from the Gnar.
Quite a lot of those.
Yeah.
Maybe like some boulders.
So we're going. Yeah, it depends, I guess, what skin, whether it's a clock tower or ice shard or... We'll see as we get engaged.
Well, you know, we've talked about what we think is going to happen. What do you guys think at home and, of course, in the stadium as well? Hashtag UOL win if you think the Unicorns are going to claw this one back. Or if H2K are going to take a 2-0 en route trying to finish off that series nice and clean. Hashtag H2K win. It's been some time. Thanks for sticking with us. We're loading on to the ref for game number 2.
Game 2, all-important one for the Unicorns to fire back with. If they can get some of this crowd control layered, allow Exile to get damage off in team fights, perhaps we will see a bit of a turnaround. They had a bit of a team fighting composition in the last game, but H2K had their number. The early skirmishes went heavily in H2K's favor.
Definitely where H2K had a much stronger 2v2 lane that they managed to win. CS advantage for Forgiven, first tower for Forgiven as well. Not exactly the same kind of setup where it's a stompy lane on the side of H2K, but I like that 2v2 lane. I like that draft overall again. And we talked about how surprising it was that Unicorns would opt into this blue side, first pick Rek'Sai once again. Nothing odd about first picking Rek'Sai, but just judging from how first game went. Early trading is just Chachi trying to scare away a few people.
Fear from Yanko Sonodo. There we go.
This is what we see a lot level 1 now, where it's no longer about warding up the river, it's about warding near specific camps. So trying to see, is the enemy jungler starting on top side? Is he starting on bottom side? And you can then kind of predict his pathing from where he starts.
A lot of this is all because of the timing of how long it takes you to get to red buff. If you start bot side, it shortens your gank timing off red buff. If you want to cheese gank off the 2 camps or possibly just quick 3 camps, get red and go bot, there's that possibility before Tahm Kench is really able to keep Forgiven safe. But this time they've spotted on the Gromp. It's going to be a later move down to the bottom lane if they even want to go down there.
Yeah, almost every single route I see now from champions like Rek'Sai involves getting red buff within 3 camps. So in this case, it would be Gromp, Wolves for move, and then he will go do his red buff now. And the reason you want to do this is because you can then smite the first camp, and then you can smite the red buff as well. So by the time you have red buff on level 3, you're actually pretty healthy, and you now have 2 options. Either you can go gank, or you can continue farming. You're never really forced to go back to base. So you can see in your minimap, move is now at that red buff. He's going to use smite again, get that level 3, and then see if there's anything he can do on the map.
And the shorter pathing was one we saw from Jankos in the quarterfinals, where he started on the Wolves because his duo lane started on Krugs on blue side. So they got their level 2 a little earlier. He got down to the bottom lane early. It was all about bot lane gang.
And look now here, Move has the option to go bottom lane. Early push from H2K. No wards. This is pre-3 minutes as well. They should have... You should expect some of it.
It's gonna be it. Vander, he ate up Forgiven, but will he give his own life? The Summoner Heal comes out, 2 exhausts are down. This is gonna be it. First blood, it's going over to Veritas.
And this is what we're talking about. This is why Rek'Sai is one of the picks that you can get these early ganks off. This is why early game junglers are so key, because your impact is already felt in this game. Jankos went blue buff because he thought Move was doing nothing on the map. His bottom lane gets punished, and now this turns everything in favor of the Unicorns.
Yeah, but H2K's bottom lane here, they they need to expect this. I mean, there's no surprise in the pathing from Move. He does 2 camps into red buff, and then you show up around this 250 mark. There were 2 wards available on the side of H2K. None of them were placed towards the river. They pushed up, they reacted too late, and then you get ganked and you lose first blood, and also a lot of summoners. So great start now from Move and Unicorns of Love, and really nothing Jankos could have done in this situation. That's on the lane.
Yeah, I think the surprise here for H2K is the fact that Move was doing a solid jungle pathing. Last time, he just didn't have
Pirate
the move. I'm sorry, man.
The family.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, I calls it as I sees it, but all the same, Unicorns, they pick up a first blood here. That's only the 3rd time Veritas has gotten it all split long.
Now, importantly, off that first blood, as you said, only 3rd time for Veritas, he's got the double longsword. One build that we are starting to see a couple of Lucians trend back towards, as Vander was spotted on a ward in River, is the Essence Reaver build. Reckless was talking about this. It gives you better scaling through the game because Lucian does start to fall off with the Ghostblade Black Cleaver build. That's his spike, and after that, every other AD carry starts ramping back up.
Yeah, basically, Essence Reaver Lucian is better if you're against multiple tanks. Because again, you go in towards the late game, you get the last Whisper later, you don't get the flat armor penetration, the cooldown reduction helps you a lot, getting more passive attacks onto these tanks and be able to kite around. And you have a Shen, a Gragas, and a Tahm Kench on the side of H2K, so that is definitely a good option. Where Ghostblade is against a lot of squishy targets, where that flat armor penetration gives you almost true damage and you can just destroy people in the mid game. Ashe on the other side, where she goes Essence Reaver as well, so going double longsword on her first back is not terrible. You'd prefer a BF sword, but in this case, a double longsword is not the end of the world.
No, certainly not. And Unicorns, with this first blood gold they pick up for themselves, playing a little bit more confidently here, seeing what Move does next. He just sends a Praise Seeker, but he was spotted on the ward. Let's see if he tries to influence this mid matchup at all, because at the moment, it has been very, very even, but Jankos is hanging around Ryu.
Right, and I mean, now we just want to see if Move can either keep up with Jankos or be more impactful when it comes to ganking these lanes here, because you can snowball multiple of these lanes. If you are Move, you force all the summoners from Vander in the bottom lane if you want to continue ganking that. Jankos obviously did a full clear, so that's why he's a level above right now. And he's towards the bottom lane. Hylissang just kind of walked the other way.
All right.
They do the ring around the Rosie. Veritas and Hylissang are going to run into
boy. They're gonna find
Actually, they're going to find him here.
Here it comes in the bush. Oh!
They know. They had a ward on
They
Vander.
stopped it.
As soon as Vander left the bush with the ward here, they're like, oh, we know he's in that bush here. Otherwise, Vander would never move because he wouldn't have vision in the first place.
Ooh, that was some Oscar-worthy acting right there. Veritas and Hylissang right back into the bottom lane, and Jankos loses some time here. It's starting to look decent for the Unicorns early game, and a lot of damage traded back and forth. Forgiven, just trying to put back on Veritas, not quite enough.
And just another small thing about that gank in the bottom lane. This is something that get mentioned quite a lot against Tahm Kench. Like, you can try and gank him pre-level 3, because normally he goes for the Grey Health at level 3 himself, and then he's a bit squishy before that, and that's exactly what Move did. I didn't actually get to see Van had already skilled at level 2. And he was like, okay, there's a chance to get ganked. I need that defensive option. Just wasn't enough because Trundle Pillar obviously comes in with the Rek'Sai Knockback and the red buff. Jankos is going to find Move.
Yep,
and
Move is leaving.
Just a little bit of a trade here.
This is my
jungle. But you can see how some of the early gold going over to Move from that assist and, you know, has influenced his motivation here. Last game was a lot more about being a tank here. He's got a little bit more gold and probably wants to do more on the map. So he's like, Tiamat, we're going to go this route, go for that Titanic Hydra, and, you know, have more presence when it comes to his own play here. They know Chachi's going to be fairly tanky. Hylissang will be fairly tanky the later the game goes. So potentially, although Hylissang has to suffer through getting
the
eaten
troll.
now.
Yeah, Exhaust is down onto Forgiven, and Hilly has to burn his flash. Veritas is very low. Good move by Vander there.
A little bit of disrespect from Hylissang in this trade, walking so close in, getting multiple stacks, and near the enemy tower as well. Your AD carry was already done trading. He was out of it. So Hylissang does get punished for it, have to flash, and we're looking at Jankos, obviously. You have some laners now without flash in the bottom lane, like the Trundle. That is a very easy gank once you're at level 6 for Forgiven especially, and you have the Shen ulti like H2K and their comp. They want to play around ganks near this bottom lane. When you have CC to set it up, you have a jungler who can gank after 6, you have a Shen ulti, a lot of ways to punish Hylissang, and that's where it's so bad, honestly, that he loses that flash for basically nothing. So now he is just an easy target for H2K. Forgiven just hit level 6 now. If they do return to the 2v2 lane on the side of H2K, expect them to gank that lane.
Was going to be a red buff fight, but Jankos decided it wasn't worth contesting here. Bottom lane, yeah, a little bit of trouble for Hillis. Time being, as Exile in the mid lane gets turned to stone. Is he going to be able to make it out alive? In comes Jankos with the flash. Body slam, there's the pool. Exile's got his flash, and he used it right before the barrel.
Went for the 3-point shot and couldn't quite hit it, but got both summoners out of Exile. That'll do for Jankos. Burned his flash for it, but Exile now has to be very, very careful in this middle lane. Can't really escape too quickly from Ryu. Gone for the swiftness boots first for the second game in a row. Obviously, the amount of slows that Cassiopeia can output, very critical to be able to get yourself away from the miasma and everything else and get yourself into a safe position. So that's what Exile's looking for with this before he goes for any primary item.
A lot of fights over the jungle buffs right here, but Ryu's not going to have too much trouble picking up his own blue after move and been chased off of it.
This might slow down everything now for H2K, honestly, because they got to use the flash from Jankos in the mid lane to try and pull off the gank against Exile here. Yeah, Exile used both his flashes as well, but H2K were in a prime position to try and set up a play towards a no-flash laner with an Ash arrow. They can't do that now unless they want to try and repeat a gank on Exile in the mid lane. He can play a bit more defensive and accept that Ryu will push him into tower, because top lane, we know Chachi's going to push against Oramne all game long. You know, once you get that Black Cleaver especially, you really start taking over the lane, shredding through some of that armor. Oramne continues to try and taunt Chachi on the tower, and then Chachi jumps away. Every single time.
Once in the tower while watching.
For charity, you know, be like, here. This could happen more, but...
Oh, dear.
If only.
That's the curse, right? You say he's been trying it, then you look at it, and Chachi's like, I'll just stroll in, it's okay. Ryu, however, wants to punish that flashless lane.
Here we get the gank.
Easier to say.
Here we don't get the gank.
It's one of the vocal warm-ups.
Walking through the jungle.
Okay, decides to get a little bit of vision on here. So Chachi in Mega form still pushing Odo a little bit deep in. There was the taunt, but Chachi was out of range.
Every
time
single
for the tower.
Chachi's ready to jump out.
He's got it.
It is the way to trade for it. Move is near the bottom lane, but hard for him to set up a gank now. Tahm Kench is very tanky now. He got the gray health, he has exhaust, he has heal from Ash. It is very difficult now to actually gank and kill the bottom lane.
And we've had the confirmation. After the double long swords, it's not the Essence Reaver for Lucian, it is the Ghostblade Black Cleaver build. So that's going to give him the potency earlier on in the game. That's going to be where Unicorns are going to have his damage. They're going to rely on Exile for later. Oh, Vanda's going to eat.
Great pillar, but yeah, that's what Tahm Kench will do for you.
Jankos is snuck down behind H2K's bottom lane. Move is trying to sneak down behind them as well, just come from a different angle.
But they know he's here.
There is a ping to spot him, there's another ward to spot him move into the jungle, so they know exactly where Unicorns is on the map. They even see Exile here.
Oh, they don't know if it was right there. The Ash Arrow comes in. Exile a little bit low, but they're bringing Shen in. Exile's got to get back to the safety of his own jungle. The pool. He's going to get taunted and taken out by Oramne. Meanwhile, there's a skirmish down in River, and Unicorns are getting bopped and barreled back and forth. H2K looking for a chase here. Meganar is soon to come. It's up, but they are still on the retreat path. Chachi, that just slowed him down, to be honest. Ryu throws down all the damage, and he claims another life.
Great defensive warding from H. I almost betted you there, Stress, being like, great defensive warding, and you want to yell about the fight. I actually want to hear that instead.
It's all good. I was going to say, Unicorns thought they'd set the trap. It was actually H2K that was springing it on Unicorns. Ryu knew exactly where H2K were. And as you said, the defensive warding, Deficio, your favorite setup.
I mean, it's so fun to see two guys setting that trap, you know, standing on ward, spotted Ryu, moves in like he doesn't see them, and then he just ultis on Exile, plus the arrow from Forgiven, and there's no flash in his flat, so it pays off that Jankos obviously traded his flash for Vladimir's, able to get the kill, and now just chase. You have the Ash volley slowing them down, you have Tahm Kench with his tongue lash as well.
And the miasma, just for good measure.
Yeah.
And while Chachi could flash it to try and stay alive, he probably feels like he's gonna die no matter what.
That's the one time I've seen Meganar not be quite so useful compared to the mini forms. So, H2K right in the driver's seat. And they're the first in the UOLCS to take 100 back. Go figure.
Well,
I didn't know that until just now.
Good for you, H2K.
Yeah. It's the spoils of war right there, the first Ocean Drake. There will be an Infernal coming up next, actually, and that'll really, really be heavily fought over.
I mean, that's the thing you're talking about, the Meganar, Mininar thing. I mean, Meganar is useful if you're super far ahead and you're super tanky, and then you can be in a fight. Or you have the rest of your team with you. On your own, not so great if you're not super fed. So, it's not going to be like Vizichachi is going to solo these fights without getting like 5 kills.
Let's look at the top lane here, guys. They're trying to dive. The two members from
It's on the way.
H2K defending.
Chachi tanking.
Okay, Jankos has moved, and they're gonna try to throw him against the wall, but Jankos with that clutch barrel pushes them back, and they might just have to settle for tower.
Really nice barrel because Chachi held his ult for just a moment
the arrow.
as he was going in. Arrow comes in.
It's not over.
Tower should be down though.
Tower is down. That is going to result in the first tower blood, and Exile right inside of the pool does not get hit, but flashes, and it's gonna be traded. Ryu with the quick fingers tried to get the execution.
So Unicorns did get the first tower on top lane after setting up that dive here. Gotta give some credit to Odo Amne. As soon as he saw the Meganaut jump forward, he instant taunted Chachi so he couldn't ulti them back. And then Jankos obviously follow up with a very good ulti as well. So perfect defensive play from H2K, avoiding their death here, but they still lost the first tower. Unicorns made that aggressive move. Chachi is 50% HP, but backup is on the way. Both Move and Hylissang.
Oh, that's
Fine,
fun,
Jankos.
Jankos. Clutch Brace Seeker, Move's got to be careful though. Yeah, it is uncharacteristic of H2K to give up that first tower blood. They have pretty much secured it 90% of the time across all the playoffs, and you know, Unicorns made a good move, got themselves some extra gold there, but they're still finding themselves a couple hundred short.
And when you look at the semifinals and now this third place game, this is actually the first time Unicorns have secured that. For the last week, pretty much. So finally getting themselves a little bit of that objective game to get things rolling. This game is roughly even on the gold, so you know, this is
and a lot of work
eventually if they want to catch up and accelerate past H2K.
Yeah, a lot of work being done by Chachi in that top lane before they got up there.
Oh, here comes Hilly.
Ryu has no flash.
The pillar down, that is a quick exhaust. Ryu, he's gonna have Odo Amne getting his back. That's gonna force the flash out of Hylissang backwards, and just when you think you've got him, they've got the backup.
And while that wasn't the perfect play out of Odo Amne,
Odo is interrupted trying to TP down bottom side. Veritas should get that tower.
what I was going to say is while it wouldn't be the perfect play that Odo Amne wants, he's going to use both globals and be able to hold on, but because of the interrupt, now Veritas is taking down the tower, so Odo Amne was just forced to use 2 global abilities. Move, what are you doing?
Oh, he was caught trying to sneak himself a blue buff, but H2K collapsing on that.
A little
Veritas,
too
he's going way forward here, trying to take down Odo Amne, who blocked a lot of those shots, leaving the minions straight into the tower. Meanwhile, up top, H2K are trying to do the same to the outer.
Very fast-paced game here. A lot of trading back and forth.
Yeah, there is. Hylissang still here, but look at Jankos. He's coming in for backup right now. Gets the body slam and bops him with the barrel. Hylissang still there. That's going to be tower up top taken by H2K.
Yeah, all H2K is trying to do in the bottom lane is just defend the tower at first. Now they realize might be able to chase for more, not in range to land the slow on Hylissang. They back away now. Ryu has to be careful in mid. He still doesn't have flash or ghost. Move was around the mid lane, but actually didn't go for the play. He wants to go back to
the scene of the
blue
crime.
buff. Like, what happened here?
He just ulted back to mid lane after respawning. Weird play by Move to go in the enemy jungle quite that deep. He had the team around that area of the map, but they weren't with him, and that is the key difference here, is they're taking the turret already. You can hold for 2 seconds, allow Hylissang and the rest of the Unicorns to split off into the jungle and the lane, and then you at least have even numbers to get the vision to then take the blue. Trying to stretch to the turret and the blue at the same time is asking to get 3v1'd in the enemy jungle.
And a little bit sad we see that play from Move, because it was actually a fine play from Unicorns to go top lane. They pushed out the bottom lane, they recalled, Forgiven returned to the bottom lane, but they'd already gone top, and Chachi were building up a big wave. He pushed into tower. At tower, he's already knocked down to like 50%. So it was a good play to just force down that tower, get the first tower gold, and only give H2K a tower in the bottom lane, but not the same bonus. And then Move goes in, dies, and H2K are now still slightly ahead. Like, we're talking 200 gold, 100 gold at this point. It's super even between the teams.
Very close game. 17 minutes into this one, hitting that mid-game stride. Next dragon coming up, Infernal. 40 seconds. Unicorns have the map vision for it, but there are a lot of H2K members around here, and they've been skirmishing quite well.
Yeah, and the problem for H2K in this game has been this Gnar against the Shen. Always pushing Odo Amne back to his tower. That's why some teams don't value Shen as like an S-tier pick, because he gets pushed to his tower so often. He gets outskilled by a lot of these picks, like a Gnar as well, who gets this easy lane. And in this game here, H2K have not been able to make proactive, aggressive plays. They've actually been reacting more with Odo Amne. It's like Ryu,
there's an arrow
on the mid.
coming.
Arrow mid, he has the Shen ult to come aggressively.
Move, they knock him into the team. The tongue lash right into the arrow, and Move does not know what hit him. had to flash, still eaten up by Vander, who claims the kill, and that's straight over to Dragon.
It wasn't quite from downtown, but certainly explosive cask into the arrow. Nice little combination out from H2K is going to net them the Infernal Drake right at the worst possible time for Unicorns. They lose their jungler, now they lose the Drake, and Veritas has to be a little careful here. He cannot afford to continue pushing. Tam Kench is here.
Oh, they're chasing him, and in comes Jankos right over the top of the wall. The gang squad just keeps on going. Exhaust is down, he flashes. The pillar was there for Hylissang to get them away, but will he just give his own life? These H2K members cannot be stopped. Ryu with the killing spree, and they take a big bite out of Hylissang, forgiven with one of his own.
Such a good play from H2K. First getting the pick on to move with some great coordination, and then instant Tam Kench ulti towards the mid lane from Vander and Jankos together, picking up more kills now for this team. It looked very close before, and then suddenly multiple kills for H2K.
Well, it's happening again.
Let's see if Move could actually flash anywhere. So he gets ulted. Now he was in his tunnel.
He was tunneling out. Gets caught, eaten up, chewed up, spat out, and H2K go for the Baron. But it's happening again because Ryu at 3-0-3 after this fight is on par to carry this game along with the rest of H2K. As Jankos again going over the wall is able to just land on Veritas. Couldn't quite land the Miasma in time to avoid the first dash, but it's a Lucian. You're never going to be able to lock him down quite that easily. You can see in the picture-in-picture the Rift Herald has been started. That's the kill that Ryu picked up and finished it off with another.
Dodges the Ash Arrow too at the last second. Chachi picked that one up. H2K do not want to stop this fight. We're getting into 20 minutes into this game, still holding that lead. They've got the Dragon advantage. But this is really good for Chachi right here. He's going to give Odo Omni a much harder time in the split push.
Yeah, and that's exactly why H2K wants to keep forcing these fights. They have the Ashe to force the engage. They have the Cassiopeia just dealing tons of damage. Right now, Ryu is on slightly above 12k damage dealt in this game. Exile is sitting on 3k. Like, he's not been able to join a fight properly, so it's not his fault specifically. But Ryu is just going crazy in Cassiopeia. Last game as well, he did more damage than multiple members combined from his own team, because he was like on 40k or something on his Cassiopeia, and the next one around 17, 18.
And just watch what Odo Omni is doing. Bottom lane, push it out, try and drag Chachi down, because then you match global for global, and oh dear, Shen has the second one, so we can do this dance again in a minute's time. And Odo Omni is just going to constantly push it out, drag the Unicorns away, and if H2K have an opening to engage with the Abyssal Voyage, with the Gragas, the Ash Arrow, any of these things, they're going to take it.
Yeah, and this is again where we have to go back to that Lucian build. We mentioned how there were two options. Essence Reaver is the better option when you're against multiple tanks, and you need a bit more scaling as well, because right now Lucian is not your win condition. It's actually the Gnar becoming a monster, Rift Herald and Black Cleaver, getting full control of that lane and always getting the advantage. That way, Lucian is kind of just helping the team. He's going to be a big part of team fighting, but if you go for the flat armor penetration build against Shen and Gragas, you're not going to deal a whole lot of damage.
Exactly, and the reason behind it is the maths and how the armor pen applies. With the Black Cleaver build, 6 hits is what it takes to get the total armor reduction that comes out from the Lucian. So against squishy targets, that's actually fine, because your hits are doing a lot of damage for every single one alongside it. Their armor typically doesn't play into it. But when resistances are built, to get 6 hits, you've scraped their armor down, you're doing ever so little damage. You need critical strike, plus that percentage penetration to hit often and hit hard and chunk through those tanks. That is why the two builds have very different power spikes.
Unicorns, their power spike, they're not going to have too much more the longer this game goes on in the Lucian. Exile, they're needing him to step up and do quite a lot of damage. Chachi just wants to make that split push happen, but you can see Odo Omni just keeps on running him around the map. Like you guys are saying, they're having to be drugged back towards this mid lane to defend this outer turret.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do as Unicorns if Chachi is stuck in the mid lane. Like, he's the man who has to sit in that side lane and give you that winning lane, so you can push in that Shen to his tower and get some damage on tower, or have Chachi roam from that lane towards the mid lane when you collapse for these fights here. It's very hard for Unicorns. Otherwise, they're trying to just siege on his tower.
Or Ryu.
Ryu is slightly out of position on the other side, but you don't have a siege comp. Like, you have a 500 range 80 carry and a Vladimir. You're not going to siege a turret. You're going to fight around objectives.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, and this is exactly where H2K want to be, in the lead, obviously, but when they're the ones making the decisions across the board for the game, we talked about it before, they just do so much better when they're proactive about it, and they haven't been challenged enough by the Unicorns. Now, Ryu is just becoming this beast yet again, and Move regrets his decision.
Second Infernal Drake coming up 1 minute 15. H2K could do with a little bit more vision control just around that lower river area. Obviously, they want to try and get some sense of control around the Baron as well. But a big wave being shoved up in the top side shows the AD carry and now will allow H2K to come down across the map and sweep because they know Veritas cannot be there in time to at least stop any kind of skirmish. So H2K suddenly have the man overlap. You can assume control of the jungle in the river and therefore have better position on the Dragon.
And Exile trying his best here to clear the wave. As long as you can actually walk into the middle of the wave as a Vladimir, you can kill it. But if you're stuck on the tower and the wave is hitting your tower, you can't really do a whole lot against it.
You walk forward, have to pull.
Yeah, have to
20%
pull,
of your
that's
health.
it, you're kind of out, and it really doesn't work for him. Ryu has been able to just set up this push in the top lane over and over because no one can challenge him 1v1, and we know the bottom lane is the Shen versus the Gnar. So if Unicorns ever try to do anything against Ryu, Shen is going to ulti in as well and just help him. So right now H2K is in a very good position. Finding Exile. Oh.
Nobody saw that. Just nobody remind Jankos that a lot of his home country fellows.
All right, whoa, there's a pillar there, Rio. Instantly they respond with the Shen ultimate. Stand now, you gotta cancel that TP right now. It's gonna finish. Chachi hops right over the wall in time. No one's gone down just yet. Jankos is gonna be able to body slam away another pillar. Unicorns think they can fight this one, but I don't think that's gonna happen. This is it. Veritas is not a part of this. Hylissang got nailed with the arrow, but they weren't able to collapse on this. Unicorns aren't even sure if they want to take this fight.
H2K are going to back away and cut their losses here. All they used was the Greg Assault and the Shen ult that came from it. But they got the TP from Chachi, which means we rinse and repeat. Hang on, Ryu might be caught.
Oh, Ryu, the full channel of the calling, eaten up by Vander at the last second. Move and Hilly, incredibly low. Hylissang's walked it out. Big shutdown from Move. He comes in and gets a massive unburrow. Vander's going nowhere. Oh no, Wamne's trying to flash the wall. And all of a sudden, things have turned wonky for H2K. Move claims another kill. Vander's trying to make something up, and he will get the tongue lash, but he is stopped. Hylissang just backing away, and that's the ace for Unicorn.
Unicorns don't care about the Infernal Drake. They're going for the Baron, but something very strange happened between Vander and Ryu there.
Yeah.
Vander ate Ryu when he was safe, when Ryu still had flash to get over the pillar, and then Ryu and Vander just spat Ryu into the fight.
Yeah, this one is on Vander, honestly. Even though Ryu was out of position at first, he got a great ulti down. And when he was supposed to then sit there and kill these stunned targets, Vander ate him. Archangel was popped as well from Ryu to get that extra HP coming in, but then Vander still decided to eat him. By the time people were out of the CC, even the Shen taunt, he spits him back out. Let's see it again here. So Ryu does get out of position at first, so Hylissang gets the kill on him. Now Vander thinks Ryu's about to die, but he just popped his Archangel. Now the CC is gone from both the Cassiopeia ulti and the Shen taunt, and then he spits Ryu back out in the face of Unicorns, and Exile able to, of course, solo kill the AD carry. That couldn't actually have been a worse use of Devour from Vander.
Oh man,
Hilly gets the back.
that split second of, you know, Vander clearly thinks he's doing the right thing in that sense.
Yeah,
because Ryu hasn't flashed. Like, Ryu is taking a full channel of the culling and hasn't flashed over the pillar. So he's like, oh, well, I guess I'll save you then. And suddenly all of the damage goes. And however, Infernal Drake did go to H2K while we were in the replay. Baron is on the Unicorns.
Yeah, so all said and done, Unicorns find themselves in a gold lead. They do have the Baron empowerment, and they're knocking down some towers. But look at the damage they were doing in that last fight. What really started to turn it on its head, though, was when Move came in, a massive unburrow, and we're starting to see these slight communication errors that we've seen seldom, but they are there from H2K. It bit them in the behind hugely that time.
I mean, I feel like we see H2K mess up mid-game team fights almost every game they play. They didn't manage to often bounce back and then win like a late-game fight. Obviously, in this fight as well, Forgiven was on the other side of the wall, so he got singled out by Exile.
When that started, Veritas wasn't anywhere either.
Right, but like everything just went wrong from H2K after the initial engage, where they got caught out slightly, and then Unicorns kind of didn't know what to do. They were waiting for Veritas to show up. Ryu takes a path down the river. Like, a lot of things went wrong, but really the fact that Vander wanted to save his mid laner ends up saving him. At the same time, he just stuns two guys and he's supposed to kill them.
I want to go back and see the player camera for Ryu there, because there's definitely Ryu face going on in the middle of that. Maybe that's the most animated we'd have ever seen him.
But such a huge swing. It's like game one, where it was both teams, you know, winning and losing fights, and then H2K had that one fight in mid where Ryu gets a solo kill to take Baron, and they win the game from there. Same thing just happened. Unicorns punish H2K for some mistakes on the map in one team fight only. Win that fight, get the Baron, and now get this big goal lead.
And now look at the difference. So odoamne is doing the same thing, trying to push bot lane out. This is to delay the Unicorns push that would come after the first tower. But he's not looking to put the tower pressure down for himself. It's not a play that H2K can make right now. Vizicachi is a little too strong and will be able to deal with him with the Baron up minions as well, especially there's no way odoamne pushes for a tower. So H2K just have to wait at the Baron buff and try not to lose too much. That's why you shove the big wave back out towards the Unicorns, because they can't turn it around in time to get significant damage done.
Well, Unicorns have already knocked down a number of towers here. They've opened up quite a lot of map for themselves, and you can just see you investing in this vision, making sure they can now keep H2K's jungle lit up for their own purposes. It's going to be difficult, but H2K do have 2 Infernal Dragons. That's going to start stacking really heavily the longer the game goes on.
Yeah, always helps, but at this point, if you are H2K, once you start falling a full item behind, you don't really care about the Infernal Drake because...
Oh, it's a massive swing.
You lost so many towers now, you lost so much gold as well, and just momentum on the map. You were the ones looking to be proactive by engaging with Ashe and then having the Shen ulti on Jankos as like your way of consistently forcing these fights on Unicorns. And now you find yourself pushed all the way back to your turrets. Exile is sitting on 3 full completed items and a lot of damage.
Yeah, and there we go. Another knockup move. Just knows exactly what he needs to do here. odoamne a little bit low. Exile, though, point blank arrow to the face.
Wait,
and he pulls out. Jankos is right around the side. Spotted by that ward from Move.
Still dangerous position, though, to be up against. Ryu has finally regrouped with the team. He wasn't there at the beginning.
Exile goes forward. Oh, he was looking for Forgiven, who gets swallowed whole by Vander here. Ryu, he's stopped and separated from the rest of the team. He's got a Shen on, but there's Nick Zoff. They keep chasing him. Ryu, Exile takes him out now, and it's going to be H2K scrambling back to their own base here.
Vander will save Jankos. They only lose Ryu, but they trade mid laners. Unicorns still going to try and push this mid tower. Their wave is about to push up, and Chachi is already zoning H2K away. So this is going to be another tower going over to the Unicorns.
Ryu again, though, is a very greedy pathing here. Ends up finding himself separated from the rest of H2K. Vander had some good defensive devours this time around. But Ryu, from the side again, steps forward, gets pillared by Hylissang. Time and time again, and Unicorns find the engage and trade 1 for 1. So, at first...
Look at where Ryu is on the map right now. He's not running TP, so this whole engage from the Unicorns is they're trying to tempt the engage out.
But right now, the mini wave is not even there. So, H2K does manage to survive it. Step back, mini wave arrives, and now the threat of Jankos and Ryu on the side is enough to stop Unicorns from trying to siege on the tower. And then Ryu tries to pass through it here, get some damage on move. And a pillar from Hylissang against a champion who can't dash away from it.
That turn from Chachi,
great turn. I mean, that's the key thing. Whenever you see Cassiopeia ultis, yes, it looks a lot like, he missed it again, you know, terrible use of ulti. But these players are so quick, especially now to play without any sort of ping, to just quickly turn around, because it's very easy to react when you see the animation from Cassiopeia with the ulti. You just quickly turn around, you don't get stunned. So it's more on players like Chachi here for outplaying it than it's on Ryu for straight up missing it.
Yeah, that's such a significant, just little micro move in the middle of the fight that basically changes the difference of Ryu getting killed there and Ryu actually surviving, getting away and getting the damage out. One thing that I like to see from the Unicorns, even with a couple out on the map already, is 4 pink wards down the inventory. They're looking for just always advancing vision control.
Ryu thought he was only dealing with Veritas, but that was not truthful. And Vander and Forgiven just deliver themselves up. There's no tower here. Jankos has to ult them out. What is going on?
It is H2K pushing too far up in the side lanes. This is what they did in their quarterfinals at times. Ryu got caught once and ended up punished for it, but they adapted back. And they're still getting chased.
There's the Ashe arrow. It's just going to stop him up for a second. Exile, they threw down an exhaust on him. Chachi is still charging the line here. They can start pushing for inhib towers on this one. They just keep diving for it. Jankos, he's got the Shen ult on, but he's going to have to get eaten up. They just didn't time it the way they wanted to. Now the minion wave's here.
Now they had to use the Shen ult very defensively here to keep Jankos alive, and then the Devour as well. So Unicorns will have managed to chase. That move from Ryu is something he likes to do so often, especially when H2K is behind. He hides in a random bush, tries to get a solo kill, and then gets something for his team. This time around, it wasn't just Veritas in the bottom lane. There were multiple members from Unicorns on the way, and then it backfires. Ryu goes down, the crazy chase happens. Exile now pulling a Ryu.
Whoa, the damage so unforgiving from this Vlad. I mean, to be expected.
Yeah.
2 minutes into
Here's
But
Jankos.
Exile had to ghost his way out. Jankos, they stop him up. Low health bar from Hill is saying here. Jankos is going to try to finish him off. There are super minions, and Jankos has chased quite far himself, but he does have backup. Big channel of the culling. Veritas was separated from them.
Where's the arrow?
Look, the arrow, they dodge it out. Jankos a little bit low, gets swallowed by Vander. Ryu covering the escape. This fight just does not stop.
Move wants to try and come in from the side now, and H2K, they're low on Forgiven, low on Jankos, and that Mountain Drake is up, but at this point in the game, you don't really want to lose a 5v5 fight over a Mountain
Move
Drake.
is looking for a flank. Can they get this off? They know full well he's here, and they're not going to
Unicorns are giving it.
H2K have no flashes on their carries. Both Ryu, Forgiven sitting right now without flash. They can't really survive a team fight when Chachi can just jump straight at them. Exile will have his flash in just a few seconds. He can get to the back line as well. So they have to give the Mountain Drake over to Unicorns of Love. Massive goal lead for Unicorns as well. And a very back and forth fight before here. We see the start. This is a real special. Hide in that bush, try and get the solo kill. Good dodge here from Veritas, and then everyone from Unicorn show up. Instantly pick up the kill. Not in time for Vander here to cancel as well. And now you have to just start running away. Trundle is fantastic at chasing. Just constant pillar on some of these slow targets. We're gonna get another big fight here, but H2K, they cannot afford losing another one. Summoner spells, Forgiven, no flash. Ryu, just a few seconds for him. Super important these carries can stay alive, because with the Rek'Sai, with the Vladimir, with this Gnar as well, they're gonna go for that backline. And Hylissang has been great on this Trundle, been landing pillars left and right. No flash Ashe will get to pillar behind her, well, you're not getting out.
And this is great timing as well for Unicorns. They've got a big wave built up top. Down bottom, Odo Omni, yes, he can get out of there real quick but he's forced to deal with the super minion wave down there. And Unicorns can just bait this Baron out. Try to bait the cage. Meganar's on! Denied by Jankos! They've still caught Vander around the side, but it was only move.
And at this point, what Unicorns have done is place all of those pink wards they have and completely take away the vision control from H2K. Everywhere H2K want to come into this Baron area, there is just wards littered around. Look at the big wave that's going to die to top tower as well here. So H2K are losing gold and experience and timeout on the map as well. There's not too many options outside of Odo Amne going over to collect some of it. But again, all of it is just losing control of the map, and the Unicorns, they're going to start this up.
Yeah, this is the correct move by Unicorns of Love. You keep a few members away from the Baron pit, one in the mid lane, one outside near the red buff, to kind of just tell H2K, if you want to go in and check if the Baron has been taken or not, you have to walk through us, and you also make H2K always hesitate, being like, are they on it or not? We can see 3 of them. So just smart play by Unicorns. It's very easy to 2 or 3 man Baron this late in the game. They pick it up, have the Mountain Drake even helping towards that little objective. Another Baron buff for them, and looking like a Unicorns of Love team who will even out this series. We get a 1-1. We get a BO3 then right after. But it's so tough for H2K because they were looking fine.
Whoa, Arrow, they're going to look for it, and they just pinball it back and forth. Forgiven takes out Veritas, and now the tables have started to turn here. Exile trying to pick them off in the back, but it just wasn't going to be the pillar for the escape, and that was a quick pickup by H2K.
Oh, that could have gone so much worse for Unicorns of Love, but you're an 80 carry with a dash and a flash. Should never get hit by Ashe Arrow, especially not this late in the game.
Whew, that
good
very
hit from
nearly.
Forgiven, though.
Good arrow. That very nearly was the turnaround that H2K were looking for, and Unicorns were not expecting. Why does it hit? Is there anything? No, actually just got hit by that. With the dash and the flash, you are right, Nefisio. Yeah, straight up got hit.
Ryu lives through it too.
Whew, he was feeling so good firing away that calling is like, yeah, hitting Ryu, and then arrow in the face. And then you die. If you're an 80 carry late game.
They did cut their losses though. You know, Unicorns, 8 kills to 8 of H2K. Still controlling the map here.
That's also the stuff when you are so far ahead that you can afford like having big screw up in a fight, and then you can still disengage. The enemy team can't chase because of super minions coming in. Unicorns get another fight for sure, and they're still quite far ahead.
It does give H2K a moment to collect, you know, push the waves back out before the Baron buff, you know, expires, slow them down again. Next dragon is going to be that Elder Drake, which if H2K pick up is going to have a significant impact on the team fights, because 2 Infernals and an Ocean being boosted by an Elder Drake, but that would rely on Unicorns making a mistake big enough to allow that to happen.
Yeah, at this point, Unicorns don't care about that potential Elder Drake. They're like, we are looking to continue pushing with the Baron buff, and they do get quite some damage on mid tower. It's only really Jankos here who can set up the fight together with Forgiven, but the arrow in itself, again, it's hard to hit that key target unless Veritas pulls the same play as before.
He's got calling up.
You're looking at that body slam flash from Jankos on someone like Veritas. Instant body slam flash him, knock him back. This is 6.15 Gragas, has not been destroyed yet. You can actually pull off the combo.
For now, H2K are holding, though. Half the health on their tower, but that will regen a little bit. Odoamne was peeking his nose in for a play, but there are minion waves building bot and top once again.
Yeah, and again, you have to be so careful if you are someone like Veritas, because there's taunt from Odoamne. There's, again, the body slam flash from Jankos, the arrow for Forgiven. There's no QSS on the side of Veritas. So if he does try and hit the tower, he is an easy target for these guys, and if they do manage to lock him down just once, they will continue and just kill him extremely quickly.
Sure.
And that's one of the things, H2K can constantly have minions pushing towards them. Hang on.
Go Taunton. Odoamne does manage to find Chachi, but he was already in Meganar. Gets the shield on, but now they're looking for the backline. Exile, he's chasing them off. Odo's holding in the front, but the tower is going to get cut through. No, they turn their attention away from it, over to Odoamne. Exile takes out Forgiven in the back of it all. The tower's gone, and everything's going wrong for H2K. Health bars are melting.
Oh, Ryu's down.
Yeah, he's
Chachi's
just going to be
got
going. That's it. It's going
That's
in.
the game.
Unicorns, they're managing to fire back on all cylinders here, and they should be able to take it.
Oh, as long as Veritas is careful here, he can't. Exile's tanking
Exile.
too much, potentially. Odoamne with the GA, hang on. Inhib is gone.
They got a lot of minions in bottom lane, a lot of minions in mid lane.
Long death
Should
timers
still
for
be
39 minutes. Odoamne and Jankos would have to pull off the miracle hold here, but the Nexus turrets are already falling down. Veritas is low on health bars. They just don't care. They get the unburn, they get the knockup. Odoamne, one more hit would do it, and Exile claims the kill credit. Last tower melted through. Jankos is going down, and this is it. Unicorns of Love will even up the series. What a game!
And what a turnaround in that fight. In the river where Vander eats a Cassiopeia who was out of position, obviously in the first place. Unicorns of Love aced H2K in that fight. Not a single member died on the side of Unicorns. They took the Baron. It was a massive swing. It was looking perfectly fine for H2K before that happened. But such a big mistake will always get punished, and you will always lose way more than just the 5 members. Because then towers, Barons, they will die as well.
And in that moment, the snap decision-making where Vander's like, I need to save my Cassiopeia. I have to. That if we don't save Cassiopeia, this fight's over anyway. And unfortunately, Cassiopeia was safe because Ryu still had his flash and didn't really want to burn it to get away from a pillar that he knew he was okay from. But still, that communication in that moment is perhaps the difference between going 2-0 up and 1-1, because that was the turning point in this game.
Oh, for sure.
And this is a really important thing, not just for Unicorns getting one game on the board and what that does for their confidence, but against H2K, a team that we know, this is a battle they're going to have to fight mentally with themselves. They're going to be kicking themselves after that mistake.
Yeah, it's tough when you go back and talk about it. A lot of players will say, yeah, I knew exactly what went wrong, so it's fine, let's just move on. And that is obviously a good attitude to have in a situation like this, where you just got to get ready for the next game. You can't sit too long and talk about what happened and individual misplays and so on. You go straight back into the pick and ban phase, and most likely we see H2K say red side again, because they could be happy with this pick and ban phase. It was perfectly fine for them. It was honestly just misplays that cost them the game. And Unicorns, for them, so important to even, get the 1-1.
Move was big this game. He had some really good team fights. In the first blood was really good as well, but like in the team fights, he had the big on burrows when H2K were grouped that were pretty significant, pretty impactful.
You mentioned going back to pick and ban. I wonder now whether this is going to adjust the Shen priority with the Nas still available, because we did see Odoamne, although it was okay the later the game kind of went, but you could see there were some struggles at just times, moments where Chachi was on a comfortable pick, had big impact in team fights as well. You compare that to the Gangplank that we saw in game 1, like night and day difference in what he could have done.
I mean, that's why we don't want to see him play Gangplank, because it's not his kind of pick. But if we go back again 20 minutes, we were like, oh, this is great. H2K looking fine. Just keep sieging around mid lane with the Cassiopeia Ashes. You're just going to wait for that one pick. Chachi doesn't have enough time to become that big bully, and you can just keep forcing the fights. So it actually looked fine for H2K getting that Shen again. It was just once you make that misplay, then you lose the game, and that's what you can look at.
That's all they had to do. Well, with game 2 in the bag, let's head over to the analyst test to break down that Unicorn's victory in game number 2.
Thank you so much, Pyra. We have a lot to run through, a lot of replays, so we're going to dive straight into the first one. But before we do, we had kind of a deja vu. I asked you, Crepo, before the game, what do the Unicorns of Love need to do to win here? You said, before Tam Kench hits level 3, down bottom, move needs to come, get that gank off, and get the Lucian going. And let's take a look at what actually happened in game.
I mean, do we really need to watch it? You know,
Yes.
Crepo predicts it. Let's see. Oh, is it level 3 cheese gank? Is it Tam Kench that skills W level 2 and gets pillared? Guess what? He still dies because it's Rek'Sai. And that honestly snowballed bot lane quite a bit.
I think this gank is so standard at this point in competitive play that if you don't expect it, then you gotta be trolling.
Gotta be trolling.
You wanted to be just very proud of your
I was
prediction
really
there.
happy. You know,
no,
I finally
no.
did it. I did it. I
Yeah,
predicted
there
something,
we go.
and our prediction is still in check.
It is still in check. However, it swung a little bit here and there during the game. First thing we want to look at as well is where H2K won a fight, got 2 kills back in the board due to a couple of misplays out of the side of UOL. Let's take a look for the vision here for H2K showing.
I mean, it's just so satisfying when you see some guy trying to bait you on a ward, and right before you go in, second guy comes to join him. It's like, guess what? You were
I knew you were
spotted
there.
all along. H2K in complete control here.
Yep.
I think it's, you know, looking at the game and the grand scope of this, when this happened, it was like, H2K have this composition that scales better than the enemy. On the enemy side, you have this Lucian, and all of a sudden, you are the ones that's making the correct plays on the map. And looking at it from this perspective, this should have been very, very hard to come back from UOL side of it.
But
Yeah.
somehow they managed
to get back. Also, H2K got an Infernal Drake off that, so we thought, okay, 2-0 must be pretty clear. And then this happens, an ace for the Unicorns of Love that they pull out over a moment where for H2K, the Shen ult was down, the Gragas ult was down, and the Ashe ult was down, and still they decide to, well, go for it.
Well, I think H2K's, you know, Rio's positioning here, I don't think he had his flash up, to be honest, and it's kind of crazy that he kind of sticks in there. He loses so much HP, and then Vander kind of spits him back into the mix, and then, of course, if he gets one shot in a scenario like this, then, of course, the fight is not going to be good. And on top of that, Forgiven was cut off completely from his team. You're not going to win a fight, even if you're 10k gold ahead in this kind of position.
Yeah, H2K just wasn't ready to commit to that fight, especially not with the way their lineup was distributed, and then it starts rolling downhill. Like, we were watching this fight backstage with both Spice and G2 members, and people like Zen were like, Fire Drake and 5 kills, it's over. It's actually over. And then suddenly, you know what? Guess what? This turnaround play comes from Unicorns, and it only went worse after that.
But then again, looking at H2K and UOL as teams, usually their macro game in these type of scenarios is where they falter. H2K have been heavily criticized for their team fighting in the past, and I feel like this weakness finally shows up again. So we have 2 games where a massive decision late into the game happens, and it kind of fails and kind of ruins the game completely for the
Interesting
teams.
you bring it up, because that is something we have criticized H2K for in the past, but there was just so many other things going on this split that we haven't seen it come out, and now it does. And you guys often talk about tilt potential within this team, and you guys wanted to take a look at the last replay specifically.
Yeah.
You guys that wanted it.
Yeah, Yamato, there was a player here in particular that has a
Holy
really bad
moly.
rough fight against a really balanced champion.
So Forgiven, the only thing he thinks about is like, Vander, why do you walk away from me? Why didn't you eat me up when this Vladimir walked towards me? And at that point, you know, Forgiven, I don't think he wants to fight this team fight anymore, because he's walking into the Vladimir that has the empowered Q and flashes away way too late. I feel like that was, you know, Forgiven being pissed off for not being eaten up when Vladimir charged him.
I know you guys talk a lot about, maybe it sounds more like a meme with the tilt of this, but it is a very serious topic within this team, and it is a trend that we have seen.
Yeah, that, and on top of that, it's not even just nature of these players. Any person gets put in a position where they're at the verge of going 2-0 cleanly against this team, showing that you master them when they stick to the same pick pattern, you abuse them early, you win these fights, and you're at the cusp of going 2-0, which means you almost solidify your position to go into Worlds. And then suddenly, because one major total team fight, you now have to fight against the Vladimir out of all champions, who snowballs incredibly hard. It's very oppressive to play against that as an 80 carry that is relatively low mobility. Yeah, that's going to eat away at you, because right now you're playing a new best of 3 where you have the mental disadvantage.
I feel like also, you know, we're highlighting Forgiven and this particular replay, but I feel like Ryu was the one that kind of dropped the ball. The situation where he didn't flash, and then later on getting caught in a split push while trying to ult Veritas, and I feel like in general after that he kind of fell back, and I feel like he was the true person that tilted in this game.
Yeah. And in true European desk fashion, we focused a lot on the negatives for H2K, but Unicorns of Love, who didn't have a good showing in game 1, show up here. Good play from Chachi, good play from Exile once again. That gank that happened just as everything as you predicted.
Yeah, that's just as everything. That joke aside, I think Exile is consistent in the sense that he just keeps trying and he keeps going for these fights. Sometimes it backfires a little bit, but like he was still the main driving force in a lot of these fights. And the Unicorns, when they're grouped, they seem to be playing more so as a team on 6-15 than they ever have before this.
Hilly had a great game as well.
I feel like definitely their team fighting is very, very strong and stronger than H2K's for that matter. But in this particular game, I feel like macro-wise, these two teams have really no clue what to do past 20 minutes. Yeah, pretty much. Let's go ARAM. And looking at the champions, they have their Vladimir, Lucian, Nar. You're supposed to split push. Enemy team have a Shen. He's grouping in mid. What does he want to do? Taunt people on the tower? I think it's really, really sad to see a macro game being played in an ARAM fashion.
So with that ARAM fashion, do you guys still give it to UOL, sticking by the predictions?
I mean, you don't change your predictions mid.
True. Sorry I asked. If you're wrong, I'm just going to laugh at you for it. Anyway, we're 2 games down.
Sorry, what was your prediction?
I get exempt from that. I'm the host. We're 2 games down, and it's 1 game apiece. We'll be back after the break with Game 3, live from Poland. Stick around.
Oh, no one cares about me.
I care about you, Vander.
Oh. Do you lie to me?
No.
Vander, he ate up Forgiven, but will he give his own life? The Summoner Heal comes out, 2 Exhauster down. This is going to be it. First blood. It's going over to Veritas.
Granny is from here, he has no mega. No Sams. Ult me maybe. Ult me, Shan.
These H2K members cannot be stopped. Ryu with the killing spree, and they take a big bite out of Hylissang. Forgiven with one of his own.
I go for Cass. Okay.
Grass.
Shen, no W, Shen, no W.
Tam Kench, no flash. Tam Kench, no flash. No flash.
He's got a Shen on, but there's the Exhaust. They keep chasing him. Ryu Exhaust takes him out now, and it's going to be H2K scrambling back to their own base here. Unicorns of Love will even up the series. What a game.